Hey, is this the hoodie you're looking for?
And now we are.
Yes.
You are so tough.
Jason Tucker. This is WP Watercooler episode number 125. Today we're going to be talking about dealing with backlash. Let's go around the room here real quick and get everyone introduced. We're going to start with Chris Lema.
Hi there. I'm Chris Lema. I work over at a company called Crowd Favorite. I'm their CTO and Chief Strategist. I wear hoodies for fun, and I run the North County San Diego WordPress meetup.
Very nice. Chris Wiegman, what's up?
I'm Chris Wiegman. I'm a senior web engineer for 10up. I used to run the Better WP Security plugin, and oh, by the way, 10up, we're always hiring.
Oh, plug in the beginning.
He's getting his paycheck.
Dave, are you hiring?
Yes, I am hiring. I'm Dave. I'm the head geek at Spectrum Tech, and we build custom plugins and e-commerce solutions.
Very nice. How about you, Eric?
Hi, everybody. I'm Erick Danzer, founder and CEO of Photocrati Media. We make Photocrati. It's a popular WordPress theme for photographers, and of course, Next Gen Gallery. And this is my very first time on WP Watercooler and my first time on any podcast, so I'm pretty excited. Thanks for the invite. And we're hiring too, so.
So if you're down with NGG.
Yeah.
I just say that. Get down with NGG.
Wow. Are you guys hiring over there?
Hi, I'm George. I work for Jetpack and Automatic, and we are hiring. And I once grew my hair out so long that I could actually wear it in a man bun.
10 points.
What about you, Sarah?
I am Sarah Wefald. I'm the production manager at Zeek Interactive, and I manage the OC WordPress design meetup, which is usually tonight, but not tonight.
She also manages to be awesome all the time. So
She also manages Steve, but we won't introduce Steve for a few more people.
Also, for anyone listening to this asynchronously, tonight does not actually mean tonight.
Thanks for making that clear.
That's what she said.
Interesting to know how many Orange County folks there are on this podcast, by the way. So,
oh, yeah.
We added another one since last time I asked.
They're a cult.
What about you, Say?
We were
hiring over there?
Yo, what's up? My name is Say Reed. I am coming straight from the LBC. And I do WordPress stuff. I like WordPress stuff. I teach WordPress stuff at Say Reed Media. Also, I suck at rapping. Really suck at rapping. But I have a hoodie
obvious.
Because it was hailing, and this is better. Trust.
Nice. What about you, Suzette?
Hello, everybody. I'm Suzette. I am a front-end developer designer over at WebDev Studios, who is hiring, and Maintain is hiring too. And I'm also a teacher with Girl Development, and I love WordPress.
Awesome. Steve, hiring, not hiring?
We are hiring. I'm Steve Zehngut. I'm the founder of Zeek Interactive, and I run the OC WordPress meetup.
Awesome. I'm Jason Tucker. I blog over at WPmedia.pro, and you can find me on Twitter, Jason Tucker.
Remember that one time when we did intros in less than 2 minutes?
Yeah, we do that normally, but not with
I don't believe it ever happened.
How much fun was that, though? Not even what?
It was once.
Let's just talk about ourselves all episode.
We already had an episode like that.
So, my gosh, I just finished my WordCamp. We made these awesome hat swags.
Oh, I'm so jealous.
Embroidery. Yeah.
I want that.
I'm sure somebody else has a couple of
in the house. What?
The thing is, if we were just in here talking about ourselves all episode, we get a lot of backlash, and that loops us right back to our actually predetermined time.
Wait,
full circle. Awesome job.
Maybe it was intentional, our backlash.
Oh, I can
and
hear the I can hear the sirens. It must
that
be
is not from here. That is not here.
They're coming to get Say again.
So Steve and I were talking about what we should come up with for a topic, and Steve was thinking that backlash would be a pretty good topic to go with.
That's really not how that happened, but whatever.
That's totally what happened.
It's not at all.
I'm pretty sure I gave you the title.
Pretty sure that was Chris in a conversation between you and me, but whatevs. Who's counting?
Speaking of Next Gen Gallery,
we gotta give Steve something. So we'll give him fake praise for the thing he didn't do. That's okay.
Regardless, the point is...
Good job, Steve. Good job.
Several months ago, I wrote a post that was about Next-Gen Gallery, and I highlighted several different things that I found were confusing or frustrating. And eventually, this guy named Erick contacted me, and initially on the site and then later through email. And as we started interacting, it turned out he was working very hard at trying to navigate through some of those challenges as well as make the plugin better. And this last couple months ago, we were both together at Pressnomics, which is a event for WordPress businesses, and he was there. And his first approach, when he first came up, we said hi, we'd connected enough offline to connect online, or online to connect offline. And as he came up to me, he said, I'm a little nervous about being here because there's so many WordPress people here, and I think there's probably a lot of people that don't kind of dig our plugin. But I said not to worry because Say is not here, so you're going to be fine. And then what happened was from there we started talking through a little bit, and he went and met a lot of different people, and a lot of people really enjoyed connecting with Erick. And so we thought, let's talk about how do you navigate the situation when you have a plugin and for whatever reason, whether it's a new version rolls out and there's a challenge, or there's a feature that people particularly don't like. In the case of Jetpack, I'm positive that Jetpack has suffered all sorts of different backlash. So it doesn't just have to be about. It
all about the snow, baby.
Just about Next-Gen.
Half of them come from Say, so what can I say?
Well, I will say that Erick is smart in coming.
So the issue is, how do you deal with the backlash, right? How do you navigate through it? So that was the question.
I just want to be clear. We're not talking about 50 Shades of Grey, right?
We are not talking about 50 Shades of Grey at all.
Okay, just checking because, topical.
Okay, yeah. Thank you for that.
So that's lashings on your back, not backlash.
Oh,
Thank you for
I'm always getting that confused.
Well played there, George. So Erick, tell us a little about life when you took over, because you guys bought this plugin, right?
Yeah, so we took over management of the plugin from Alex Rabe, who's a German developer, really talented guy, and that was in late 2011. And we managed the plugin for quite a while. To the extent that we had issues, I think where things got bumpy with us was we pushed out a pretty major overhaul of the plugin in August 2013. You're talking about a lot of new code, some changes to the architecture. We pushed it out in one fell swoop. I think
everything crumbled.
Well, so I guess what I would say is I think we need to divide backlash into two components here, right? Because I think you guys perceive backlash differently than I do. Right? Okay. When we pushed out 2.0, the kind of backlash that I really didn't like, and I think is really serious, is you're talking about bugs or conflicts or really serious issues that you put out on user side. So we did have that. That was the time period, August, September, that time period right in there. Those were dark days for us, right? And I think what happened was you take a lot of new code and you push it out on 1.3 million websites at the same time. If you think about what usually happens with most plugins on the way to popularity, you launch a plugin, it's got a new code base, and as it gets adopted, you find things and solve them on the way to popularity, like incrementally, so that by the time the plugin is widely distributed, it's been very well tested. In this case, you take a new code base, you push it out on a lot of sites at the same time. You don't have that advantage of incremental issue solving, right? So all the issues kind of came forth at once. And I think it's important to point out the 2.0 release was actually really smooth for a lot of people, right? But it was also really bumpy for a lot of people. And by bumpy, I mean ranging from little quirky bugs here and there to some really serious issues, right? And I don't think the really serious issues were I don't think it was a huge percentage of our user base, but when you have really large scale, we maybe get 100,000 updates usually the first week when we push out an update. So if you have issues on 10% of sites, that's 10,000 websites, right? The forms will blow up if you have issues on 10,000 websites.
It's only 10,000 websites. I mean,
you don't have that problem, right?
Oh no, edge cases at scale never bother us.
Exactly.
So wait, is that the first? Is that the first kind of?
Yeah, so that's backlash number one.
Backlash.
That's good backlash. That's productive backlash.
I actually think that's really productive problematic backlash. That's the kind of backlash when you have it, you need to solve it fast. You need to communicate. A similar kind of backlash in the same category would be, you have a security breach or something. These are things that should not happen, and they need to be solved quickly, right? I think that's one. Now, the other kind of backlash, and I think this is someplace where I think maybe I've been at fault because I haven't been out publicly beating the drum as much. I'm fairly introverted, but and this gets to Chris's post. It has to do with product vision and where you're going. And I think while some of the issues that we had with 2.0 were about bugs and issues, another big area, which is completely separate, is are we taking the product in the right direction, right? And I don't think anyone's really understood what we're trying to do with the product, right? Including Chris. I think here's an example. So this has come up over and over on WP Watercooler, right?
You're
so
saying
you guys will say,
I'm dumb.
No,
no, we are.
Wait. I want to. You've listened to the episode more than once?
Go on.
I watched like 30 episodes in preparation.
I'm really sorry.
But like in the last 3 days, just to make sure it's all nice and fresh.
Binge.
He binge watched. Yeah.
We're better than House of Cards. What's up?
So,
go on.
But yeah, so here's the issue, right? You guys will often ask a question. Or you see posts like it, and this is what Chris posts. What's the best gallery plugin, right? As Say often says, and she says this over and over, it depends, right? So there is no perfect answer to that question. It depends on what the use case is. And this is a really big thing that's changing in terms of the WordPress gallery space I don't think is properly understood, right? If you go back 3 or 4 years ago, the kind of people adopting NextGen were really, it's a really broad spectrum of people. You have everything from individual bloggers and small businesses who need a simple gallery to serious professional photographers and advanced imaging professionals, right? And I think
advanced imaging professionals is one of my new favorite terms. Put that out there. Okay.
But I think what happens here is, over the last few years, as the WordPress media library has gotten better and better, and you've had a huge proliferation of simple gallery plugins. If you're asking the question, what's the best gallery plugin, and you're talking about a simple small business or an individual blogger who just wants to put up a simple gallery, even I would concede, I don't know that NextGen's the right solution in that case. It's just too much horsepower, right? And that's where you get complaints about it's too many features or stuff like that, right? You know what? You're absolutely right. It's too many features if that's your goal.
Somebody
wait,
pause. Somebody tweet that Eric, after saying things I didn't understand, he actually said Chris was 100% right. Get that on Twitter.
Never.
Chris was 100% right if you're talking about a particular target market.
He doesn't. No, he just wants Chris was 100% right. Dot.
Yeah, just
dot.
He
didn't hear the rest.
My out of context quotation is better than your out of context quotation.
Go on.
Get off my lawn.
This is good. Go on.
Yeah. So our target market isn't there, and I don't think there would be any point in NextGen trying to compete for the simple gallery management plugin. That would be a really silly long-term strategy given where the media library is going and given how many gallery plugins there are. That's not where we're going, right? Our target market really is serious photographers, right, and imaging professionals and large image-intensive websites, right? And when we talk to those folks, our problem is not too much functionality. Photographers do not think that NextGen has too much functionality, right? And in fact, it's just the opposite, right? I mean, one way that I would put it is...
Eric?
Yeah?
My attention span has waned.
Can I say one more thing before you guys
I'm actually obligated to interrupt people after 2 minutes, so I just wanted to provide that.
It is. It's in her contract.
It's in my contract.
She gets paid for that.
I get paid per interruption. I wanted to say a lot of things, but we need to talk about some of those things that you're talking about. Because otherwise, you're just going to be done.
Can I toss one more thought out there, and then you guys can have at me?
Yes. All right. We will.
Bring it. Come on. We're taking notes.
I don't see us in over the next 5 years as really competing with most other WordPress gallery plugins. That's not who we're competing with, right? What we're competing with SmugMug and Photo Shelter, right?
Yep. Your face is a smug mug.
The beating heart of photography is really not on WordPress yet, right? Like, if you look at photographers, they tend to run 2 websites all the time. They run their WordPress site blogs on WordPress, and they run their galleries, proofing, and e-commerce on SmugMug or Photo Shelter because there is no solution for that. It's an entire industry that just has no solution in terms of WordPress, right? And it's a very big industry, and I think our goal is to try and go out, grab that industry, and encourage photographers to consolidate on WordPress in a way where they can also run their galleries, proofing, and e-commerce off of NextGen, right? And that's a very different kind of.
So let me ask you this question, Eric. When you get the backlash, right? So when you get this thing is bloated, kind of feature creep versus the horsepower illusion, right? If people are like, hey, this thing is just it's gone off the rails, how do you respond, right? Do you ignore it, or do you take it? Do you write write people back?
So, I think, well, I guess probably I have to distinguish between how I think you should respond and how I probably have responded, right? And this is what I mean by.
We want to know how you have responded, not any best practices that have not been followed.
Yeah, give us your failure. That's what we like. Come on, bring it right here.
Sure. I think we believe in our product vision and where we're going, and we've just continued to push forward on that without.
The question.
Yeah, exactly. We're done now. You had your 2 minutes. When you sorry you were.
All right, Mark Zuckerberg.
How did you handle these 10,000 broken sites when you pushed that update?
Besides weeping and crying in a corner, because obviously that happens.
That's what the rest of us do.
That's what George does.
August and September.
Wait, Eric, while you think about that answer, let's jump over to George. George, how did you react when people started saying, "Why is Jetpack snowing all over my damn website?"
Well, I say it's because you decided to turn the damn snow on.
I always turn the snow on.
Just like that.
I know. I come from the
So
George,
coming to you, it's what you really have to do, and what I always try to do is sit down and have a conversation, see what it is that they're exactly objecting about, because they may say that this is a feature that I don't use, therefore it's bloat, but that's really a very bad definition of bloat. What you need to look at is all the users. Just because you don't use something, okay, sure, it can be turned off. That doesn't mean that having it available is bloat.
So what I'm hearing, George, is that Jetpack blames the user and says, "Sorry, you turned it on. Your fault." Is that what I'm hearing?
That's what I heard.
I mean,
okay, Chris.
The other thing too is that I come from music industry land, and the notion of something snowing all over the place means something different.
Very good point, Sarah.
No, the fact of the matter is the snow only shows up because you asked about that specific case. Snow only shows up if the user actually said yes, make it snow.
That's on one time.
That aligns with Sarah's experience. But let's move over to Chris.
It becomes an e-commerce solution.
Chris, at some point, you guys rolled out at iThemes a whole new version of your plugin, and you got a little bit of backlash, didn't you?
Well, a little bit.
Yeah. How'd that work?
Well, we thought we had a big beta group. Wasn't big enough, so we hit that edge case.
It never is it?
Yeah, it was about 1% of one feature, but when that 1% went down, the bug literally brought the whole site down.
Took everything with it.
No data loss, but no one could log in.
I want to know how you.
It's a matter of getting it fixed fast.
How do you earn back the user's trust? Because for example, something like NextGen, which got basically, this is how I feel what Backlash is. Backlash not necessarily from existing users, but from new users who are now reading all this negative stuff about you, or they're like, oh, NextGen, that's totally busted all the time, whatever, which is, what word on the street is, because we talk about NextGen on the street here.
In Long Beach?
In Long Beach, but...
Yeah. Down at Q1 in Lewis. We'll play Duo and we talk about NextGen.
But also, like, for example, something like the social media widget that, had the malware in it, like, they had to really do a whole PR campaign to earn back not just the trust of the users that they already had who ditched them when all that madness happened, but the new users who were who had heard about it. So I'm curious, as to all of y'all that had some issues, did you notice a drop then in new users coming on? I mean, your existing users, one thing, but what about your new users and that kind of rep that you got? How do you deal with that?
We were transparent. We fixed our issues fast, and it really didn't affect our new users at all. That plugin just kept getting bigger all through that. It was right about a year ago, almost to the day, we blew up all those sites. In fact, it was WordCamp Miami where Jeffro walked up to me and goes, "I never met him before," and his intro to me was, "So you're that asshole who brought down all those websites." That was his intro to me.
Jason's in the church.
Sorry, you're right. I forgot about that part.
I didn't do that. I didn't do that.
I mean,
being honest about it and getting fixes out fast.
Folks are going to care how you deal with it, how you resolved it, how you recovered from it. And that's what's going to make the difference in the long term.
What I'm hearing is that Jeffro walked up to you and was kind of a jerk. I don't know what's going on because Jeffro's normally a pretty nice guy. We're gonna have to run. We're gonna have to run a whole show on how come Jeff.
I mean, what did you do? Seriously, that is extreme.
We should have a show of victims of Jeffro, right, where they all get on the show and talk about how Jeffro assaulted them.
Did you take down the tavern?
Verbally, nicely, safe spaces.
I might have. I don't know.
No one's assaulting anyone.
So Eric, Eric, when you guys took over, and I know you had that initial plugin, rewrite, and it's very similar to what happened with Chris over at iThemes and the security one. You go after a really big rewrite or a big change of stuff, and then you have some challenges, right? Does it drive you to make more incremental changes?
Absolutely. I think that's one of the things that I think you have to, any backlash situation is you got to figure out what lesson you should have learned here and learn it, right? And I think the idea of pushing out major overhauls to popular WordPress plugins, just because of how chaotic and diverse the WordPress environment is, that's something I think we would be very careful about ever considering doing again under any circumstance.
You hear that, WooCommerce? Are you listening? WooCommerce, attention, WooCommerce.
ACF.
Lesson you would like to learn.
Let's just shout. Let's start shouting out plugins that have had this same problem.
Obviously, it rarely happens.
WP Commerce.
To add to that, I think a lot of plugins who do this, you think that you can protect yourself by beta testing, right? And our beta of 2.0 was out for probably a month and a half, had 1,000 downloads. We actually incorporated quite a bit of beta feedback prior to that launch. And it just didn't help. I mean, I think the trouble once you hit scale is there's just too much diversity in the types of environments in which you're operating. So the beta feedback just isn't fully representative. And as Chris was saying, you're still going to get some percentage of edge cases, different kinds of edge cases, different pockets, and the cumulative effect of that is still going to be large. I just don't know if it's possible.
I would also like to put out there that possibly the beta tests are going to be full of groups of people who are going to have better configured sites, more appropriately configured, because the users who are just out there setting something up and using it are not necessarily the people who are your beta testers. So your beta test is already being done with a more aware group of developers or site users who are more connected to what you're doing. So I think that has a lot to do with the fact that the beta...
That's a good point. I was working on a site over the weekend, and the lady had 4 different gallery slider plugins set up.
Good.
Lost Jetpack.
Yeah, and Jetpack.
Hey, that gives you 4 times the sliding
Revolution.
I think that happened.
But is that an environment that's going to be tested in a normal beta program? Probably not. But there's a lot of opportunity there for JavaScript conflicts.
Yeah.
Same thing happens if you install 2 SEO plugins, you get double the SEO.
Yeah, I think she had 2 of those also. It might work, but
that's
you had
not
one
true.
more straw.
I just want to put a footnote that that's not true for anybody.
Hashtag sarcasm.
That's not true.
Install the new Twitter plugin to get more people tweeting about you.
If you install the security plugins, nobody's going to hack you, right? I mean, everybody has at least 3.
I want to make one suggestion when it comes to what happens when you've been hacked, right? And
the plugin has been hacked?
I'm sorry, not just hacked, but anytime you've done something where all of a sudden you've broken a lot of trust and you have a lot of blowback or a lot of backlash, I think there's a moment in time when that happens when your voice as a company is not as strong, right? And on top of that, your focus is normally to fix the issue. And so what tends to happen is you think, well, my audience doesn't really want to hear from me because they don't trust me right at this moment, and I should be more focused on fixing the issue, right? And so what happens is...
Chris, that's so true, man. You're capturing, I think, my psychology. Not to interrupt, but yeah, I agree. Totally.
And what happens is you go quiet, and that's the exact opposite of what needs to happen in that moment. You don't want to go dormant. You don't want to go quiet. You don't want to go incommunicado. And so one of the things I tell people regularly when they're getting that in that moment of backlash is find a set of your champions. Find people outside of your company who can help communicate your story and what's going on at the time, and keep them in the loop regularly. Give them updates every 4 hours. Give them updates every 8 hours. Give them updates every 2 days. Help them help you tell your story to get the message out. And at the same time, make sure you're giving updates regularly, right? That level of transparency goes a long way to rebuilding trust. I know WooThemes has had several challenges between years and years ago, having a couple different intrusions on their systems, and then most recently last year, about a year ago, with the credit card stuff, and that doesn't even include when they changed the pricing. And in all of those, one of the things that kept them kind of navigating through it was the regularity with which they were communicating to the outside world, and the number of champions outside of them that were out writing about it and explaining how to think about things.
And iThemes did that too. I remember it was pretty like I wasn't using iThemes, but I heard about it. Like I heard that they were like on it. So I think that that's a really good example of being out there. Everyone was tweeting about it, saying, you know, do these fixes and whatnot. And I think that's really important. I think that's a great point because especially the way the community works, you know, you might hear it from one person or you're following, and then that's how the word really does get out.
Yeah.
And then you can
One thing I think that's
honest.
One thing I think that's really important that George touched on earlier is that this kind of backlash should be opportunities for improvement, because I think as long as the public feels that they're being heard and that their issues are being addressed, like with Jetpack, why is it so bloated? So Jetpack goes, well, is this something that we need to change how it works so it doesn't confuse users? Having that kind of approach to thinking with it, I think, is the best solution.
And
wow.
Again, on social media, your biggest detractors can be your biggest advocates. They need to feel that they are heard. They need to feel that their opinion is valued, that you're not just dismissing them out of hand, and that they need to know that if something they're bringing up is a concern, say, yes, it is a concern. That is a very valid point. Here's why we do the things the way we do. We may not change to do things the way you're suggesting, but please understand that it's not just like an arbitrary decision. There are good reasons and good cause for our differences of opinion, and that's okay. We're not going to hate you because you disagree with us.
Right, but part of that, George, is it has to get articulated, right? Yeah. So there may be people who like Jetpack, but when someone says Jetpack's bloated, if the only sentiment, if the only feeling you have is I like Jetpack and you don't know anything else, you don't know what to do with it. But when someone else writes a post that does all the analysis of saying Jetpack isn't as bloated as you think it is, and here's all the proof, and that information gets passed out to everybody, then when you're a fan of Jetpack and you hear someone say Jetpack's bloated, you go, actually it's not. Here's some information I recently learned, and here's a URL I can send you to. And it's even better if that's being championed by someone who isn't necessarily working with Jetpack, right? And so getting your champions to help tell your story, and to get those parts of the information out to others, including, you know, with Eric doing stuff with NextGen to say, here's our target, here's how we're focused on helping that target, here are the case studies of that target. Then when someone else hears someone say, hey, NextGen's totally bloated, you go, well, actually, I don't think it's bloated. It's just you're talking about which target market are you, and you're not their target market. That has to get articulated, because if it's not articulated, it's just in your head, it doesn't help you at all.
Yeah. And I think it's important, to which you touched on a little bit, we're not just talking about upgrade backlash either. I think the pricing structure thing, I'm not building construction, I don't know what that is, but that you briefly touched on, updating your pricing structure, that's a thing that happens, and it's going to keep happening as the ecosystem continues to grow up and the companies grow. And being really on top of it and explaining upfront your pricing system, grandfathering in existing clients, that type of thing is going to prevent that same kind of backlash from a pricing standpoint. So it's really not just about upgrades and breaking things. It's also about upgrading your business and being transparent on the business side and explaining what you're doing. Or, you know, who's leaving, and now NextGen isn't owned by this other guy from Germany and is now by Photocraty, or however you say your name. Photocracy, I don't know.
Photocracy?
Photocracy.
We get a lot of, actually, some people think it's like
feel like they're being valued.
Photo karate, I like that.
Yeah, this is not quite.
What were you saying, Sarah?
Your picture foo is weak, old man.
I was just saying, at the end of the day, all of your customers just want to feel like that they're valued and that they're heard and that they're being thought of.
Yeah, and they're not being swindled, first of all. I mean, that's a big thing. And that they're,
how you tell that story, right? How you tell the story of I'm going to change my prices.
Check with ChrisLema.com.
Well, no, it doesn't have to be me. It doesn't have to be me, but get help. Right? Get help, because your insider view of why you think you're going to do something isn't necessarily the story that your customers are ready to hear. And so,
this
you know,
is true.
get
we don't want to know that you need more money for your boat, okay? Just FYI. That's not the right line to take.
Just
not working. You want to hit on sustainability and growth and stability in the company. All those things.
Get some help. Get some help.
Talk about your boat.
Up.
On that note,
that's it.
So sad.
Thank you very much.
Unless you're sending me a boat.
Thank you all for being on the show today. make sure you go to our website at WPwatercooler.com. We are on YouTube, on iTunes, Stitcher, and we are also on SoundCloud.
And we love you. Heart, heart.
We love you.
Thanks again for the invite.
Eric, you're a good sport. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Cutie.
Guys.